Everybody loves a good zombie game. Alright, that's not actually true completely. Plenty of people hate zombie games, but the fad has been going on for quite some time, and there's a decent amount of interest, so it isn't really like developing one is some sort of risky maneuver. Over the years, there have been many zombie games, ranging from Dead Island to Dead Frontier, all the way to Left 4 Dead and Dying Light. Today, I'm going to do a brief review of World War Z, a brand new third-person zombie horde co-op game that is released on all platforms, but it is unfortunately an Epic Store exclusive for the time being. Let's get one thing straight, this is basically Left 4 Dead 3, except it's third person. For those that don't have any experience with Left 4 Dead as a franchise, it is a co-op zombie FPS game developed by Valve. Back in the day when Valve actually made games, that is. I played it mostly in high school, quite a few years ago, and it was fun, so I am by no means saying that the similarities are a bad thing, but it's basically Left 4 Dead 3 in third person. Now, Valve hasn't made games in a very long time, unless you count their recent attempt at a turn-based card game called Artifact, which is a complete fucking failure. So it's understandable that someone would jump on the Left 4 Dead concept and produce something fresh, but it's good to be clear up front that this game is essentially a hybrid of Left 4 Dead and Killing Floor 2, and does almost nothing unique at all. The gameplay takes place across a series of segmented campaigns with linear, objective-based progression. Players drop in, rescue a scientist, collect explosives, breach doors, that kind of thing, you get the picture. And as they fulfill various segments, they advance towards a final extraction. All of this takes place in the cinematic world of, go figure, World War Z, though unlike the box office hit film, Brad Pitt isn't around. The game does a decent job of emulating the film's hive-minded zombie collective concept. One memorable theme that is shown many times in the movie is the zombies' ability to climb over one another and ascend to great heights with a tower of bodies, or cross large gaps because of their frantic scrambling, sort of like rabid ants, if you will. The same thing happens in the game, though never quite to such an exaggerated extreme. The zombies will build pyramids of bodies as they climb up walls and breach gates, which makes for some really interesting standoff situations with auto turrets, 50 caliber machine guns, and various special weaponry as players frantically bombard the horde of writhing bodies. The various campaigns have some interesting moments to be sure, but if you sit down and just play through them all at once, it's a fairly short experience. Depending on difficulty, they can take slightly more or less time, but you will be replaying them a hefty amount in order to rank up your classes and gain access to the various perks. The class and perk system bears some strong similarities to the Killing Floor franchise. As you rank up various guns, you get alternative versions with higher damage or magazine size, etc. And as you complete milestones, you earn currency to spend on class perks, which have some decently strong gameplay impacting traits. I haven't ranked up any classes to maximum or really gotten that far into any of the trees if we're being totally honest here, but there were some cool bonuses to grind for if you enjoy the game and spend the time playing through the levels. There are a decent number of characters, but the thing here is that characters seem to be purely aesthetic. You can pick from about 4 different characters unique to each overarching campaign, but your loadout and gameplay does not seem to change based on which one you choose. It only changes based on which class is selected, so the characters right now are mostly just cosmetic. Once you get sick of playing against the massive hordes of zombies in the PvE modes and various campaigns, the game does offer PvP. Now, I'll try to keep this evaluation as level as possible, but total transparency, I really don't like the PvP. It has some cool systems and modes, but the hit registration felt terrible at times. If you are using a sniper, it seemed better, but with automatic weapons, there were gunfights where it just felt all wrong and ended up being really frustrating rather than fun. The heavy weapons and special gadgets or grenades are on a timer and cannot be spammed, which is a good thing, but when you do have them, some of the heavy weapons are crazy powerful, and sometimes it's very appealing and fun, but other times it's just facepalm worthy. That's kind of the lay of the land when offering super powerful periodic special weapons. It's true, regardless of whatever game it is, but the special items and abilities in World War Z do have a massive impact on matches. There is entirely separate perk progression within PvP as well, which is a very good thing, and the class balancing seems to be mostly well executed, which helps make sure the games don't become too one-dimensional, but this may in fact change at higher tiers. I'm not able to say with 100% certainty, as I haven't ground out the dozens, possibly hundreds of hours to max out everything. Some of the PvP modes are much more populated than others and significantly more fun as well. This part is obviously pretty subjective, but the hybrid PvE Swarm Deathmatch mode seemed to be one of the more popular and more fun versions that the game has. Over the course of the match, based on noise level, large swarms of zombies will rampage through the area, throwing a wrench into the dynamic, and these zombies are actually very well balanced. They force players to make decisions based on their spawn location and progression pattern, and can easily kill you if they are ignored, but are relatively easy to take down, which turns what would otherwise be a really stagnant, cookie cutter, and crappy mode, and turns it into something a bit more interesting. In terms of monetization, there is no microtransaction shop, no loot boxes, nothing of that nature, and the game is also priced at a very reasonable $35 level, which is something I will be keeping in mind while considering a rating. The game utilizes a custom-built engine called Swarm, which allows for 500 zombies to be present at any one time on the screen, and that is probably its single most noteworthy achievement. A lot of times game design is limited based on character number restraints, but with the Swarm engine, it allows the development team to create some really good moments and construct a frantic level of gameplay that actually emulates the movie quite well and does decent justice to the zombie apocalypse genre. For bugs and glitches, I have had a relatively smooth experience, at least personally so far. I do know of some players, however, who have run into frequent crashes, but there is a hotfix in the pipeline and they've already been working towards solving that issue, so as far as typical game releases go, I don't really have anything too negative to say. There have certainly been worse launches in recent memory, so I wasn't all that concerned. Overall, the game is decent, especially considering its price tag, though the customization does lack depth. There are some cool bits and pieces here and there, but the weapon customization especially isn't really customization, in terms of the literal definition at least. It's just different weapon versions. The zombie design is a highlight, but even then, there are some strange moments like how the huge towers of zombies and faraway packs seem to be melded together as an entire unit rather than individual zombies themselves. So when you are shooting them, it feels like even when you are missing shots or hitting isolated zombies, the whole pack is inexplicably dying in addition to that. It's not all that often, and it actually helps create a sort of power fantasy for the player, but at times it does feel strange. After playing through the campaign, I really can't say that I felt motivated to play the levels over and over and over again. It seems like a fantastic game to play with a group of close friends, but it's not a title that I can picture myself grinding or really playing much more of if I am alone and not with a whole group. I am also hesitant to use the phrase "it's fun with friends" as actual praise, because whacking a rock in the street with a hockey stick is fun with the right group of friends too, but I don't have to pay $35 to do that for 6 hours and then get bored. The PvP doesn't really interest me, mostly because the hit registration is fucking terrible, and I also don't feel very much incentive to grind through it and unlock further perks. The level design is somewhat repetitive. Mostly it consists of search for an object, now give that object to someone else, or plug it in somewhere, and then defend them. Now prepare for an assault and fight off hordes of zombies. Over and over and over. Occasionally, in certain levels, you get something a bit different, like clearing an area of toxic gas, but even then, the way you do it is by searching for objects and plugging them into a terminal. If this was a $60 game, I'd be ripping it a new one. And it may sound harsh already, but considering the price tag, the sort of arcadey level of fun that the game can certainly offer at times, and the way it has constructed the zombie encounters in order to do justice to the cinematic World War Z film universe, I can be generally positive about it. There are some reviews out there claiming it's a 4 out of 10, and I wholeheartedly disagree with those. It's higher than a 4. But there are also some reviews rating it at 8 out of 10. I disagree with that too, because it has some serious replayability concerns. But all things considered, I would rate higher rather than lower because of the game's lack of predatory monetization and low initial price tag. Combine that with the adrenaline-packed cinematic moments and it can periodically offer a great deal of fun. So to me, it's a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. The game clearly wanted to ride the coattails of the Left 4 Dead franchise. The developers were very open about that as well. They made no pretense and they stated so explicitly. Even some of the special zombie archetypes are identical, like the heavy armored charger that runs at you, picks you up, and slams you on the ground, or the crouched hunter that leaps across long distances and pins you down. But even having these carbon copy attributes, it still sets itself apart at least somewhat, and it's worth checking out for avid zombie fans. It's an Epic Store exclusive right now on PC, which does suck, but all in all, it's a decent game that will offer up a lot of fun for a decent chunk of players. I don't personally think that it surpasses its spiritual ancestor, if you will, Left 4 Dead, but it's fine, and honestly, there's really not much more to say. If it sounds like I'm sort of indifferent right now, that's honestly pretty accurate, but I don't want to make it seem like that indifference is born of any animosity. I'll probably check back whenever this game drops major updates, but as it stands, I played it some, liked it, but I don't think I'll play it very much more. I'm not passionate about it, hence the indifferent tone. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have various gaming communities, merchandise, and some other stuff too, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.